So the other day I was scraping my little noodle brain for video ideas, and I just couldn't think of anything exciting to make. But then something came to me like a message from the future. Shoga, you're a dirty casual who's been watching the UFC for like 6 years now. Why don't you dig into some of the past UFC events? There you might find something interesting. You know, instead of just glazing Australian fighters. Yeah, that's a great idea. But where do I begin? The year was 2012, and the world was a magical place. Gangnam Style had just topped to the charts and hit 1 billion views on YouTube. 50 Shades of Grey was introducing women to forbidden bedroom jiu-jitsu. And I was busy proving to my year 6 teacher that I would pass high school. Barely. It truly was a nice time to be alive. I mean, at this time in the world, social media hadn't got its dirty little hands into everyone's soul, and people could still walk around and talk to each other without crippling social anxiety. Yep, it was perfect. Perfecto! But in other areas of the world, things weren't so perfect. The world of MMA was in fact in turmoil. Okay, so to give you a little bit of context and to explain how this timeline was in trouble, you have to give me a little bit of time to craft the MMA landscape of 2012. This is what had recently happened. Benson Henderson had won the belt from Frankie Edgar at UFC 144 in February 2012. Anderson Silva was having a peak year in the middleweight division and was a dominant champion the entire year. Not only that, he'd also defended and defeated Chael Sonnen at UFC 148. Now just down from the middleweight division, in the welterweight division, GSP was injured. But although he might have been injured, he was recovering for a future fight in late 2012. In the bantamweight division, Dominic Cruz was the champion, but unfortunately he was also injured for most of the year. Now Jose Aldo was still in the peak of his career. He hadn't been destroyed by McGregor yet, he had a crazy back and forth with Chad Mendes, and he went on to be the featherweight champ for all of 2012. DJ, also known as Mighty Mouse, became the first ever flyweight champion in the UFC. And then there was Jon Jones, the prodigy, the youngest and best champ to do it. He was dominating and practicing by ruining highly anticipated future events. Now, for a lot of you, and myself included, I am tainted by recent Jon Jones memories. And the Green Goblin and the mask, it just calls to me. And it wants me to make this another Hate Jon Jones video. But I can't do it. Not right now. I need to be fair, and I need to explain what Jon Jones had done to this point. And really, it is quite impressive. This is what Jon Jones had achieved so far. Jones became the youngest champion in UFC history. He beat 5 former UFC champions in a row. He also had 3 successful title defenses. And while doing all of this, he became the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And to top all of that off, he also got his first DUI and crashed his Bentley into a pole. I hate you. Getting back on track though, you can see why people consider Jon Jones the GOAT and how much he'd achieved so far. Shit person out of the cage or not, Jon Jones had an insane record. But did you know there was a UFC card that got cancelled? And did you know that he was the reason why? Okay, that wasn't entirely truthful. Yes, it was partially Jon Jones' fault, and I'll let you guys, the jury, decide, but it was also because of the UFC. But before that, let's start from the beginning. As I said, Jon Jones had beaten 5 former champs at this point, and he was the mere age of 25. This is where the UFC decided, hey, we need to test Jones. We need to find someone who could really challenge him. Dan Henderson was a fighter who had great knockout power, and he was just coming off the fight of the year with Shogun Rua. Yes, he was getting up there in age, being 41 years old, but the narrative was old versus new. The young lion versus the old warrior. The old fart versus closeted domestic violence. That's right, the fans loved it. Hendo was the guy who brought pure danger and power, and Jones was this new age of unstoppable talent. Who will win? Well, unfortunately, that question never got answered. And on the 23rd of August 2012, Dana White announced that not only would the Jones and Dan Henderson fight be cancelled, but also the whole UFC 151 card. Everything was getting binned, everything was going to the Shadow Realm. But deep down, there was more to this card. There was more to this cursed card and this situation. UFC 151 has come to a screeching halt. Fighter Dan Henderson is out due to a torn MCL. And because the UFC is incompetent, the show is cancelled. What? What do you mean I'm fired? But the weird situation here was that there was a potential savior for this card. Chael Sonnen. With 8 days notice, Chael Sonnen put up his hand and said, "Sir, I need to go to the toilet." Wait, wrong memory. "Sir, I'll fight with 8 days notice. Put me in there, coach." And there you have it, a solution. Now UFC 151 can finally go ahead. Right? Wrong. Yes, Chael was down to fight Jones, but Jones was not down to fight Chael. You see, Jones said the main issue was because Chael Sonnen had a heavy wrestling style. Jones had just trained for a different fighter in Dan Henderson and didn't want to make a quick turnaround against someone with a completely different style. And I quote, "Chael was a completely different fighter from Henderson. I had no game plan for him." Quick interjection. I don't know, John, isn't that kind of fair? You are the GOAT, right? Chael also hadn't prepared for you. Not only was he far worse off in terms of age, skill, height, and reach, he was also a middleweight. So I don't think you really needed a plan. Stuff the takedowns and beat him up. I mean, that's what it means to be a GOAT fighter. You know, take a risk, take a fight on short notice. You know, just like the guy we all love, Alexander Volkanovski. Okay, sorry. I just had to get that Aussie glaze out. It was sitting here in my chest. Back to the video. Now, big bad baldy Dana White disagreed with this entirely, and so did the UFC. Now, obviously, they're very biased, because they needed him to fight, you know, to save the entire card from destruction. But the UFC was also incompetent. Now, Dana was, of course, very mad because he wasn't getting his way. So he continued to publicly blame Jones for it, and of course wasn't taking a lick of accountability. Yep, it was a real shit show. The card was cursed, and it never would come to life. But for me, the real curse here is not the card. It's Jon Jones, and it's the UFC. And honestly, these same curses would go on to affect cards all the way into the future, and also just recently. That's right, this was the curse card that started it all. And this was the first ever UFC event to be cancelled. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this little dive into the past. A bit of a different video for me, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to smack the shit out of my ass and the subscribe button. We're almost at 5K subs, which I'm trying to hit by the end of the year, so do me a solid and help me get there. Also, feel free to smash the like button. That shit helps. Do I have anything else to spam? Should be a video somewhere here to click. Go and watch that. You'll love it. Other than that, I'll see you guys next week for more MMA content. And 2026, Paramount, better be good. I love Alex Volkanovski.